Hi friends, so now we will see pandas in Python, which is in our advanced Python playlist. So let's get start with pandas. What pandas does is whenever we want to work with all of our data and to perform all the operation with our data sets, then we use pandas. This is the practically definition that I'm telling you. So what basically happens, we just import pandas and we give again as alias and we read a CSV file. Here I am using a CSV, that is pokemon.csv, which I'll also provide in the description. Now what we are doing is we read the CSV first, then we just simply printing the data inside the CSV file. So this is our tabular data that is our in Excel sheet. Now, what if I want to read top 5 rows? So for that, I use head function and I pass the number of rows that I want to get. Like here, I want to get 5. So basically, we run this just because we want to confirm that, okay, this is my actual data, right? But the number could be anything. We can pass any number here. Similarly, what if I want to print below 5 rows? Okay, for that I use the tail function. Basically we have two functions, one is head and another is tail. So for tail, again we get the last 5 rows or the rows that we want to get from here, right? Now but if I want to know the columns that are inside our Excel sheet, or I mean the total columns that are there, so we just run the command, that is df.columns, as df is our data frame, right? Remember this df, we are having the pokemon.csv data into our df variable. Okay, so here now we are getting the total number of columns that we have in our data frame, right? So we have some advanced like a function. What happens, basically I have a column here, legendary. Okay, but now what if I want to get all the rows inside this column? So this is what the value I'll get from this column. I can pass any other column to get the value inside that column. So I just do the df dot the column name. Okay, now if we want to access more than one column of a data frame, we can use list, right, for columns and indexing to get the rows. Okay, so here what I'm doing is I'm just using ilog function where I pass two things. That is, first is I want to value from 0 to third. Okay, my bad. If I want to value from 1 to third, right? So I'll write like this. But I want to get from 0, we will have this 0 to pass here, and 4 minus 1 will be the end value, right? Now what if I want to get any no here what I'm doing is I'm just accessing name column, type 1 column and HP column, and I'm just getting the value from 0 to 4. Okay, so here I'll get these 3 column and value from 0 to 4, right? So again, what if I want to get from 1 to 3? So I'll do like this. Okay, but here in this way, unless and until I pass any column, it will just give the whole data that is in our data frame. Okay, now let's say what I want is I just want to get the first row. So what I'll do is I will just read the same. Okay, and I just pass here to get first row. I just pass here 1. Okay, so what it will do is it will give the first row, I mean the first rows values of all the column. Okay, respective column. So in this way I'll get that. And what if I want to get the value from any what I say, let's say, what if I want to get value of any row and particular cell in similar term? So what I'll do is I'll pass the column rows values and the column values in a matrix. Okay, so here what I'm doing is I'm passing the third rows. Okay, so from here 1 2 3 and our first column. So first column would be what? Our type 1. Okay, here remember that this is not a column sequence number, it is index. Okay, so if I give 0, so it will basically return me this value. Okay, that is Venezuela, right? Yeah, this value. But here as I passed 1, so I'll get the row and column. So that is the access of the particular cell. Now what we are doing is we can also iterate all the rows, okay, to access each row and get its index. So in this way what I'm doing is I'm getting the index and the rows itself from the df. Okay, and in the df, that is our data frame, I am calling the function that is iterate rows. Okay, iterate rows. What it will do is it will basically return all the index values, that means we can say all the column values and their respective value just we got here, right? So this is what we get. But here as we are using the for loop, so it will run for any individual rows, right? For each and every rows it will run that. Now if we use condition to get row from data frame accordingly, so here what I'm doing is I'm just passing access. First I'm accessing the type 1 column and checking the condition. If the column values has fire, okay, so that only it will return the value of all the data frame. Okay, so let's see, we have fire here. So just because of this condition it has written all the data. Okay, so we can say we just filtering the data, right? Let's say what next. Now we have describe. So basically describe is nothing but it is a statistical description of the data frame column which will give all the statistical description. So now what are these statistical description? We have some count function, mean function, we have our standard deviation, min, max, and the quartile range, that is first quartile range, second quartile range or interquartile range, and the third interquartile range, right? So we get from this describe function. Let's say what if we want to sort those value on the base of the column. So what I'll do is I'll just use the sort values function, give the name, or we are just passing the name is nothing but our one of the column name, right? So here is the name column. So if we pass this name and we are telling that just give me the value and their order should be in descending. So the order should be descending from z. We are getting first z's value, then we have to that. What if we remove this, or let's say first I'm doing it true, so basically it will give in ascending order, and by default also it takes true, right? Yeah, so it will just give in order. So let's leave it as it was. Now we are sorting values based on two columns, okay, and arrange each column in ascending or descending order. Okay, like we are two different column here, and one should be in ascending order, another should be in descending order. So for ascending descending we are just passing true and false. True false is nothing but 1 and 0. Okay, so again here type 1 will be our in ascending order, perfect, and HP would be in a descending order. Okay, so this is also in descending order. Again, let's say what we have, this is our normally and print all the data in this way. And what if I want to filter the column based on particular condition, right? So here what I'm doing is I'm first accessing the type 1 column in the df where the type 1 is grass, okay, and we are passing and the type 2 should be poison. So it will return all the value, okay, which have grass in type 1 and poison in type 2. So in this way we can apply the index. Okay, again here what I'm doing is I'm passing the certain condition in a df. Type 1 should be grass, type 2 should be poison, and our HP should be greater than 60. Here lots of the rows will get removed just because of this condition. Okay, Now what I'm doing is I'm also resetting the index. As you can see that it will just return the data, but the index would be same. What if I use the reset index? So it will give the data with the new index, right? And you can see the value of HP would be always greater than 60. Even though we can also use drop index true, which will retain our old index, right? Now here what we are doing is we are using a tilde operator here. We just want to remove rows based on certain condition. Okay, so this is just for that, to remove the rows. So I'm printing this. So I got these values. So here what we got is we use this symbol, that is tilde, just because to make a condition false, like if we don't want to this name containing mega, so it will return all those value which do not have mega in their name. Okay, we can see we will get all the name value, but we will not get mega values rows there. Let's move forward. Now what is happening is what we want to make changes on the condition again, so we are simply checking our type 1 should contain flamer. Okay, and all the type 1, right, would be in fire. Let's say here the type 1 was containing flamer, we are replacing those value as fire. So in this way we can check the condition also, and we can update our column from there as well. Okay, now what we want to do is here we are doing nothing, but if we want to change column based on condition, and the column that need to be changed is the column that we specify as a list, right? So here the condition is HP should be greater than 45. Okay, and if this exists, so our generation should be updated by or replaced by type 1, and legendary should replace by test 2. Okay, we have this one. Take any example, we have this HP is greater than 45, then our generation is replaced by test 1, and our legendary is replaced by test 2. Similarly, let's say we have this again, where the HP is greater than 45 and the value got updated. So now comes to the point where we want to group columns based on a type and get the value in the other columns based on rows. Okay, I mean that row contain that information. Okay, let's say how it works. So here what I'm doing is I'm using the group by to group those column. Okay, which column? The type 1, and we are getting the mean of that type 1, sorting the value that I got on the basis of this mean function by defense, and the ascending order of this sorted values should be in descending order. All right, so let's say we have our type 1, so we got all the values of type 1, and it grouped all the values based on the identity value. If there is any duplicate, just group them and get the mean value and then sort value. Okay, so in this way we can do that. Now what if we want to concatenate two data frame? So here we use dictionary to create data frames, right? So this is the definition of dictionaries. Now with the keys being the column headers and the value in the list being the columns value. Okay, so this is our header, or we can say the key, and these are our values. So we are getting 4 entries here, right? We will use concat function to concatenate both the data frames. Okay, it will just return the df3, and if we print that df3, it will concatenate that df1 and df2. Okay, so we will get all these values from a df1 and df2, like 01 from df1, 01 from df2 as well. We can also concatenate them on the base of any particular or no keys. Okay, to identify no, there should not be any duplicacy. So here what happens, we say access 0 to concatenate them across rows, okay, and access 1 to concatenate them from columns. Basically by default it has access 0, right? Now what I'm doing is I'm applying function to apply the logic of the function to the columns in the data frames, okay. So I'm just defining the function, then printing the values. So it will basically return all the values that we have in our data frame. So this is what our df.apply. So in df.apply function, we are passing the myadd function and the access 0. So here what will happen, it will apply all the function to each element of the data frame. So what the function return, just print, okay. So it will basically print all the values or all the elements in the data frames. Now here the interesting is we have map function also, okay. By using this apply function, we apply the logic of the function to the columns in the data frame. But here what it will do is it will apply that logic to each of our element in the data frames. So here for each of the element in the data frame, it will first map and return the values.